Welcome, dear viewers, to another chilling episode of Deadscape Diaries, the place where the boundary between the real and the supernatural grows thin, and the darkest corners of our world are brought into the light. Tonight, we venture into the unknown with a story that begins like any other night of gaming but quickly spirals into something far more sinister. A group of friends, out for a casual thrill, stumbles upon an old, dusty video game console tucked away in the corner of a local thrift store. It seems like a simple find, just another forgotten relic of the past, but what they don't realize is that this console is no ordinary device. The game it holds is not just a game, but a twisted reflection of their own lives, full of secrets they thought were buried in futures they never expected. As they dive deeper into the game, the boundaries between fantasy and reality begin to blur. The choices they make in the game start to manifest in the real world, revealing hidden truths, manipulating time, and ultimately putting them on a terrifying path they cannot escape. The game doesn't just predict their fates, it controls them, each move pushing them closer to a horrifying conclusion. So, buckle up, because tonight's tale is one where the stakes are higher than just a game. This is a story of fate, choices, and consequences, a story where the line between player and played might not be so clear. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear may just make you think twice the next time you pick up a controller. The Game of Haunted Fate. It was a cold, overcast afternoon when four friends found themselves browsing through an old, dusty thrift store. Eli, Sophie, Max, and Lily had nothing to do that day and had come here on a whim. The store smelled of mildew and forgotten memories, the kind of place that always seemed to hold something strange and out of place among the old books, cracked furniture, and musty tapes. Eli, always looking for something bizarre, was the first to spot it. In the far corner, hidden behind a stack of tattered board games, lay an old video game console, its design dated, its label worn and unreadable. It didn't look like any console they had ever seen. It was old, with wires that looked like they could fray at any moment, but something about it seemed off. "This looks perfect for Halloween night," Eli said with a mischievous grin. "It's cheap, too." Lily raised an eyebrow. "Are you sure we want to play some random, old game? What if it's haunted or something?" "I don't care," Max said, laughing. "It's just an old game, right? How bad could it be?" They each chipped in and bought the console, eager to kill time with something new. As they carried it back to Eli's apartment, the air grew heavier, the world outside quieter, as if the very atmosphere was warning them. By nightfall, the group had settled in, their curiosity piqued. Eli plugged the console into the old television. It buzzed to life, flickering for a few moments before a strange, jagged logo appeared on the screen, Fate's Game. The letters were dark and distorted, giving off an ominous glow. "Looks like a cheap horror game," Max joked, but his voice wavered ever so slightly. The game loaded, revealing a pixelated forest at night, bathed in an unsettling fog. The music was faint but eerie, a soft, discordant melody that made their skin crawl. The character on screen, a silhouette of a person in a red hoodie, walked through the mist, alone and vulnerable. Without thinking, Eli grabbed the controller and pressed start. The game began simply enough: fight some monsters, explore the forest, and solve puzzles. But something felt wrong, even from the very beginning. As they continued, the game started to feel too personal. The pixelated figure encountered strange symbols that, when Sophie squinted, seemed eerily similar to the one she had seen carved into an old tree during a childhood camping trip. Max, too, noticed something unnerving. The game displayed a flash of text. "Do you remember your darkest secret?" "What the hell?" Max muttered, his stomach sinking. Sophie turned to him. "What did you say?" Before Max could answer, the game continued. The red hooded figure wandered deeper into the fog. Suddenly, the screen flashed violently, and a sharp, agonizing sound echoed from the speakers. The figure stopped, turning to face them. A voice, low and distorted, echoed through the room, though it didn't seem to come from the game. "One of you will not leave tonight." The group froze, their eyes wide in terror. "Did you hear that?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. But no one spoke. The room was dead silent, save for the sound of the game's eerie background music. I'm turning it off," Eli said, reaching for the power button. But when he did, the TV screen glitched, the lights in the room flickering violently. For a brief moment, the friends saw their own faces on the screen, twisted, distorted versions of themselves. Their reflections seemed to sneer back at them, eyes glowing, mouths stretched into grotesque smiles. The TV snapped back to the game, but this time, it wasn't the same. The forest had changed. The trees were twisted, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The once friendly environment was now suffocating, oppressive. It felt as though something was watching them, something lurking in the shadows. "Turn it off," Lily said, her voice shaking. But it was too late. Suddenly, the game began to predict their movements. As Eli moved the character forward, Sophie's phone buzzed. She glanced down, seeing a text message from her ex, one she hadn't heard from in months. But it wasn't just any text. "I see you're playing, Sophie. You won't be able to escape." A chill ran down her spine. "Is this some kind of sick joke?" Sophie muttered. But deep down, she felt that it wasn't. The game knew too much. Next, the character in the game stood at a fork in the road, where two paths diverged. One path led to a familiar, cozy cabin, the other to an ominous, dark cave. On screen, the game displayed another message. "You must choose who will live and who will die." The friends stared at each other, feeling a sense of dread settle in. It was too much like a nightmare, too real. Eli, his hands trembling, picked the cabin. The character began to walk toward it, but as they neared the door, the ground trembled. And then, without warning, the room grew colder. A loud crash came from the hallway, followed by a faint, dragging sound. The friends stared in horror, frozen in place. The lights flickered again, and they could hear something breathing, heavy, labored breaths. "What is that?" Max whispered, but no one answered. They all heard it now. The game's character reached the cabin's door. The door creaked open, revealing nothing but an endless black void inside. A hand reached out from the darkness, grabbing the character by the neck. The TV screen buzzed with static, and for a second, it looked like the hand was reaching through the screen, its fingers stretching toward the group. A deafening scream filled the room, and the lights went out completely. In the darkness, they could hear footsteps, dragging across the floor, slow, deliberate, getting closer. The sound grew louder until it was right behind them. Max, panicked, scrambled for the controller, but when he turned back to the screen, the game had changed. The red hooded figure now stood in front of them, its face hidden by the hood, but its presence undeniable. "You've played your part," it whispered, its voice a rasping, inhuman sound. "Now, you must pay the price." A cold hand gripped Sophie's wrist. She screamed, but the sound was muffled, as if the air around her had thickened. Eli reached for her, but before he could touch her, the game's figure stepped forward, and everything went black. When the power came back on, Eli, Max, and Lily found themselves standing in the same room, but Sophie was gone. The game console lay lifeless on the floor, its screen cracked. Where is she?" Lily whispered, her voice breaking. The TV flickered, and for a moment, they saw Sophie's face on the screen, her eyes wide with terror. A final message appeared on the screen. "One of you will never leave the game." The friends stared at the console, realizing too late that the game had become something much worse than just a game. They weren't playing it anymore. It was playing them. Thank you for coming along on this unsettling adventure. If tonight's story left you questioning what's possible, be sure to like and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales that will keep you looking over your shoulder. And always remember, if you ever come across something old and strange, don't be too quick to dive in. Some games don't just play you, they own you. Until next time, keep your wits sharp and your lights on, and stay tuned for more from Deadscape Diaries, where every story is just a little too close to home, and every shadow might be hiding something more.